right now, why am I okay? Right now, what is going right? And just accepting what is happening. It doesn't mean that you lay over and die and be like, well, this is my life now, and that's it. It just means accepting, okay, here's where I am right now. What can I do to move forward?
Welcome to Get Pregnant Naturally, where functional medicine and natural fertility solutions will help you get pregnant and have your baby. Hey everyone, I'm Sarah Clark, and my mission is to inspire, motivate, and empower you. And most of all, I want you to wake up. With functional medicine, we can discover what causes infertility and eventually reverse the condition. Today, I'm welcoming Andrea Reiter to the podcast, and we're digging into how to strengthen our intuition on the fertility journey. So Andrea is a holistic fertility expert, Reiki Master, and author specializing in a mind-body approach to fertility. She uses a combination of Reiki, intuition, and mindset coaching to move women through the emotional and physical blocks that are impeding them from conceiving naturally. Though based in New York City and LA, she helps women all over the world achieve their dream of motherhood. She specializes in women over 40, PCOS, endometriosis, fibroids, unexplained infertility, and more. Andrea has been published by the Chopra Center, Thrive Global, Mind Body Green, The Elephant Journal, and is a regular contributor to Fertility Road magazine. Her book, How to Get Pregnant Even When You've Tried Everything, a mind-body guide to fertility, is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Llewellyn worldwide. For more information, visit fusionfertility.com. That's Fusion fertility.com. Before we jump on today's show, don't forget to hit the subscribe button on iTunes or wherever you're listening to this to make sure you never miss an episode. Hey, Andrea, excited to have you on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So if you could share your journey with us and really how you came to do this work.
Sure. I've been a Reiki Master for about 10 years. And so I've been doing healing work for a long time, but I was mainly working with people with chronic pain and cancer. And the premise of my work is that there's an emotional cause to the physical issue. And once you address that emotional cause, the physical issue doesn't need to be there anymore. So, I had people who had like uterine cancer, ovarian cancer, all kinds of stuff that once they dealt with the emotional stuff, the physical condition went away, which was awesome and really fulfilling. But my sister-in-law was having trouble getting pregnant. She had 2 miscarriages, and just one day I was like, this is kind of what I do. And I think the same thing applies here, this emotional cause to the physical issue. Do you want to do a session? Fully expecting that she was not going to do it. And she said, yeah. And so we began to work together, and she got pregnant with and gave birth to my nephew, who I am in love with. He's so freaking cute. And I was like, holy crap, like this is a thing. So many people, I think the stats are like 1 in 6 people are dealing with some form of infertility. And I was like, this is so many people. Like, what if there is another way like this that's not invasive that could help people? So like from that day, I immediately switched my practice over to fertility because I just became so passionate about it. Because my 2 best friends, my sister-in-law, friends from school, like it just seems like everybody was coming out of the woodwork. And I was like, oh my God, this is what I'm supposed to use my ability for. And from that day on, it's been straight fertility.
I love it. So you talk about intuitive hits, but let's see, how do we, tap into our intuition, and why really is that important for the fertility journey? And how do these intuitive hits that you have, how did you fine tune that for yourself?
Well, when I first started doing Reiki, I just started getting these, visuals with a feeling attached to it that just kind of let me know what was going on with the person. It just sort of developed over time. But the reason that it's important in fertility is that, it doesn't seem directly related to your uterus, but it is in that your brain, when I say your brain, I mean like your ego, that old like lizard part of your brain that's like the fight or flight response that we still have, even though, we're not chased by wolves anymore. We still have stressors that trigger this fight or flight response in our bodies. And what happens on a physiological level when that fight or flight response is triggered is that all of your power, energy, whatever life forciness goes to the parts that you need to stay alive, which are your brain, your heart, your lungs, and your feet in case you need to run away from said threat. All non-essential body systems slow down or shut down because you don't need your uterus when you're fighting a grizzly bear, when that response is triggered. So on a physiological level, when we are freaked out and overanalyzing, and am I taking enough supplements, and am I eating the right thing, and am I doing this, and blah, 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 it just sends us in this kind of fight or flight brain place, and it actually perpetuates the issue. Conversely, when we're in our intuition, the intuition is like that knowing place. You don't have to guess if you're right or not. You just know that something is true. Like when you hear a teacher saying something, or you hear something on the news, or you hear, and like that resonates for you, that's your intuition. Most people have some sort of glimmer of that. For example, when I met my husband, on my first date, I was like, marrying, done, next. Moving on, I just knew. Or, if you're going down a street and you get a weird feeling, you're like, I just feel like I shouldn't go down there. That's intuition. It's this knowing. You don't have to guess if you're doing the right thing or not, And unfortunately, the brain runs the show most of the time. The oh my God, what if, am I doing enough? All of that runs the show. Fight or flight is an automatic response. So we can't stop it from turning on, but we can, the manual override shift switch is the intuition. Because when you're in that place, in that knowing place of, you know what, I am within childbearing age. I do have at least one ovary and a uterus. I have a great relationship. I'm excited for blah, 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 whatever you're excited for. When you're in that, when you're genuinely putting out that energy from a law of attraction perspective, like energy attracts like energy. So you are then a match to the thing that you want. When you're in the brain, when you're in the, am I doing enough? And what if it doesn't happen and I'm running out of time and all this stuff, you're becoming a match to the, oh my God, what if I'm running out of time thing. So it is important in this fertility journey to be able to develop your intuition more, not to make you the next Long Island medium at all, but just to get you trusting yourself, because I do think that's a huge thing that's missing in this whole fertility sphere, is that we're many generations removed from our intuition being a valid barometer of where we are and what we're capable of, because we immediately defer to the doctors or to Google or, and we don't feel like we have any power on this journey. And that's the really sucky thing about it, is we feel like we're being tossed around by the waves. There's nothing we can do about it. And unfortunately, then we become a match to, I have no power. There's nothing I can do about it, because that's what we keep putting out. So where we do have some choice is in being able to develop the intuition. And so there are a lot of ways to do that, from the very basic to the more advanced, but a simple way, a couple of ways that you can start doing that. One is to get your mind quiet. And a lot of, misconception about meditation and things like that is like, you have to clear your mind, and everybody's like, I can't clear my mind, it's running all the time. And it's not about clearing your mind. It's about just getting it quiet a little bit. So ways that I find that are helpful to do that are, if you have some music that has no lyrics, that's very calming for you, or like I have one that's like all forest sounds or water or something like that gets you calm. If you have some sage or some incense or a scented candle, even something that just kind of like sparks another sense and just kind of helps you get quiet. And you just put one hand on your belly and just close your eyes. And you just ask the question, what is it that you, and when I say you, I mean the body, you want me to know? And that immediately puts us in a place of receiving versus hunting. And that's a very important distinction to make in this fertility journey, because most of us, with our jobs and just with how life is now, we're used to going after it, getting it done, fixing it, being efficient, A plus B equals C. This is how I do it. And fertility is not linear like that. And it's not something we can force, because again, law of attraction wise, the more we force something, the more we're met with force. And so this is a good way to kind of become friends with your body again, because it feels like, our bodies are failing us when we're going through this fertility journey. If my body would just get on board, things would be okay. And the thing is, the brain is the control center. Your body's taking orders from your brain. And so it's more the thoughts and the fears that we need to address so that the body can do what it wants to do. And so an exercise like this, where you're just asking an open-ended question, what is it that you need me to know, to your body? And just sit there and breathe and see what happens. We don't want to get too attached to needing this epic, amazing, I have the answer now, because our brain's going to want to micromanage that, because that's just what we're used to doing. But be open to how it shows up. You might see a color. You might hear a word. You might see a visual, get a feeling. It can come up in different ways. So try not to be attached to that, but just sit there for like a minute or two. I mean, it's something that takes 2 minutes a day, but it gets you in that sort of place of receiving. What is it that I need to know, versus I have to hunt it down and figure it out, because the more I have to figure it out, the less I've figured it out, and it's important that you and your body are on the same team. And so this is a good way to be able to listen and see what the body is wanting us to know and to fix or to shift. Another way that you can do that is called automatic writing. So same prep with the music, scented candle, whatever calms you down. And you just put the pen to the paper and you just ask the question, like, what do I need to know about getting pregnant? Or what do I need to know today? You don't want to ask a yes or no question, because you're attached to that answer. Like, will I be pregnant next month? Or will I win $1 million? Mm-hmm. We're attached to that, so you want to ask an open-ended question and just whatever guidance wants to come in. So whatever it is you subscribe to higher power wise, for me, it's guides that I tune into, but for some people it could be God, angels, universe, purple unicorn in the sky. It really doesn't matter. Whatever your higher power is, tune into that when you're doing this writing, and just ask for, whatever's for your highest good to come in relation to this question. And sometimes you might not get anything. When you first start doing this, our minds are so driven at first that it's going to be hard. And so it's just something that you want to do over the course of a couple of weeks. And the more you do it, the more you get used to it. And the more downloads, as I call them, will start coming in. Because it's kind of like, when you go to the gym, you don't go once and walk out a bodybuilder. Like, I have all the intuition of ever just from doing this once, so it does take time to sort of build that muscle, as it were. And just one more sort of easy way to do this that has seemingly nothing to do with your fertility, but everything to do with developing your intuition, is to just simple things like guessing what time it is before you look at the clock. If you're going to go meet your friend for lunch, what color shirt is she going to wear? That's and cool. Yeah. You're going to be wrong a couple of times, but the more you do it, like I'm pretty good where I can, within a couple of minutes, I can look at the clock and know what time it is. It's just like the more you do it and you're feeling into it and not trying to make it happen or guess it, but just, what time is it? Oh, it's this. So little things like that, like guessing things that are like, who's going to email you next? That kind of a thing. Those can be good because your brain is not focused on this thing needs to get me the baby. It's just, here's the thing I'm doing, and it's occupying my brain, but it's also developing my intuition at the same time, unbeknownst to my brain,
Yeah, these are really cool. So the quieting the mind, and I do that in the morning with I just have Apple Music and just put on like a nice little like spa music, which I like, and then adding in the sage or the incense or a candle, like you mentioned, and then what is it you want, or what is it you want me to know? And then I like that receiving versus hunting, because so many people here, it's like the rabbit hole, researching like hours a day, and like hunting for the information, the success story, the whatever it is they're digging into, which then it's like spiraling out of control.
It exacerbates the issue, because the more we hunt, the more we don't know, and it just kind of gets that fight or flight more, like, oh my god, like
Mm-hmm.
So
The automatic writing. So sorry, you said that in the
yeah,
morning?
honestly, whenever you have time, because I know people's schedules are cuckoo now. So whenever that can happen, but I do find morning the best time to do these kind of things because it sort of sets the tone for the day, you know? But if you don't have time until the evening, that's fine. It's just really about finding 2 minutes where you can be just focused on you. You're not, hurrying up to do your homework. You are allowing this space for some guidance, because we also feel like on this journey, like we are alone in a way. Even when we have a spouse and even if we have a supportive family, we feel like, ultimately I'm the vessel. Ultimately, this is up to me. And it can feel very alone. So when you have, doing these exercises, it's like, especially if you do have some sort of, even if it's just, the universe, God, whatever it is you subscribe to, like it can just kind of make you feel like there is guidance coming from somewhere. It's not just you that needs to figure this out,
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. What do I need to know? And because a lot of times, the person in the white coat, we're thinking they know best. They know our body better.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
wait a minute, let's back this thing up a little bit. And then, find
Yeah.
listening
And
to see what it is you need.
right. And it is both. Obviously they've gone to school for
That's
many
right. Yeah.
years, but they also, I think, and I know a couple of great doctors, but for the most part, my clients that come to me have had horrible experiences. And I think it's just, a matter of training. They look at this as a disease and they're looking at you as a uterus, and they kind of forget that there are other factors going on, other beliefs, past experiences, emotional things that are going on, external factors like work and stuff like that are contributing to the physical issue. And I think how they talk to women can actually exacerbate the problem,
Mm-hmm.
because we have white coat syndrome and we immediately go, oh my God, they're telling me I can't do it, so I can't do it.
Yep.
But that's not a true statement on its own. It becomes true if we subscribe to it. But we have so much more power than we are taught to use. And that's why this intuition thing is so important on this journey.
So let's dig into a little bit the psychophysical response. So you talked in the beginning about every emotion has this link to a physical condition.
Mm-hmm.
How's that? Yeah, how's that?
Yeah. So technically the law of psychophysical response is under the umbrella of law of attraction, which is like energy attracts like energy. Whatever we're putting out, the universe has to bring a match to that energy. And unfortunately, it's not always like what we're saying that we're putting out there, it's what we're actually putting out there. So if we are saying, like, I really want to be a mom, like that sounds positive and I'm doing everything I can to do that. But if the undercurrent is, oh shit, sorry, I don't know if we can swear
No,
on this.
go for it. Yeah.
Okay. What if I can't do this? What if I can't do this? That's what you're being met with, that undercurrent, not
Mm-hmm.
what you're saying.
Yeah. Fear.
And that's one of like the annoying nuances of law of attraction. And it's hard to catch sometimes. But so under that is the law of psychophysical response, which states that for every negative thought you're having, there's a negative physical or chemical reaction in the body. And for every positive thought you have, there's a positive physical or chemical reaction in the body. And the tough thing with that is that your brain can't always, this fight or flight part of you can't always discern if it's just a thought that you're having, if you're replaying something that did happen to you, or if it's a fear of what could happen, or if it's actually happening in real time. It can't always discern that. So you could be playing something that happened, like from a previous miscarriage or a previous fight that you had with your husband or whatever. And if it's stressing you out, your body is reacting as if that thing is happening right now. And so it goes into, as we mentioned before, that fight or flight response where everything goes to your heart, your brain, and your lungs and goes away from non-essential body systems like your reproductive system. So it's not to like scare you into, oh my God, I had a negative thought, now I'm killing my body. It's not about that. But it's to actually empower you and to remind you that here's another place in this journey where you do have a choice in redirecting your thoughts. If it's like, okay, I'm in a negative place, so this is making me feel bad. What's one thing that does make me feel good? What's one thing that is going right? Or it makes me feel good to go for a run. I'm going to go do that. There is a choice in redirecting the thoughts that are there. We can't squash them down, but we can redirect. And so part of my work is figuring out, for example, one of my clients who has a thyroid issue, pretty extreme, and it's affecting all of the levels in her body. And the emotional cause to the physical with that is that the thyroid is, that's your throat chakra. So that's being able to voice your opinion, feel like you're being heard. And so when there's a thyroid issue, that can be like when's it going to be my turn? Not able to voice, not feeling like you're being heard by either a spouse, coworkers, family, etc. So my job is to then go in and find out where that's happening and how we can shift that so the physical issue doesn't need to be there. But we really want to just look at your body not as your enemy, because it's really not. Like I said before, it's, your brain's the control center. Your brain is sending out these signals and your body is responding. If your brain keeps going, we've missed our window, we've missed our window, we've missed our window, that's it, it's over, we've missed our window, your body's going to go, all right. It's not going to do what we want it to do because the brain is sending the signals. That's it. It's done. So we have to address what's going on in the brain so that the body can go back to doing what it knows how to do. And it will do it. It is so resilient, and it's so much nicer to us than we are to it, really. And it's a necessary part. I know it's super hard, especially those of you who have been on this journey for a long time. You're just freaking over what's going on inside of your body. Mm-hmm. But we do kind of have to redirect or restore that because you do need it for this to work, Yeah.
So how do we recognize those beliefs that are holding us back? So so it's like those negative thought patterns of never even seeing, thinking that it's not going to work and giving up hope and feeling hopeless. And then that's just like this vicious cycle, and then trying to inject some positivity, or not positivity, but a mindset shift. So how do we, get into those to recognize those beliefs that we have?
The best, well, a lot of them are subconscious, and that's what I spend a lot of time with my clients on is, we all have blind spots, myself included. Everybody has a blind spot about something, and we can't see all of our really root issues. So that's part of the work, is excavating them so they can be dealt with. But the easiest way to root some of them out on your own is to tell if you have a belief is if you're having an extreme negative reaction to the thought, like fear, anger, hopelessness, etc. It would take a long time to go into today, but the main premise of this is from the work of Byron Katie, which I would recommend people watching, or she has a bunch of videos on YouTube, or her books, Loving What Is. The basic idea is that if you are having an extreme negative reaction to a thought, you're believing something about that situation that's not true. And that is a tough pill to swallow for a lot of people. And I get that. You're going to have to step out of your human suit that you're wearing right now and look at it from a sort of bigger picture perspective. But the idea is that it's not the situation that's stressful. It's what we're making it mean that's stressful. For example, if I think I should be pregnant by now, I should be pregnant by now. I've been trying for 5 years. I should be pregnant by now. That's the thought of that is what's stressing me out, not the actual situation. Because if I have at least one ovary and a uterus, if I'm under 50, if I had sex this month, if I'm getting a regular cycle, if I'm working on myself, there might be just something else that I need to work through or release. So I shouldn't be pregnant by now because I'm not. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to be. But when I think that I should be and I'm not, that's what's stressful, not the situation. So the best way to recognize them is to go through, like if you're having an overwhelming fear or thought, is to write it down and go, okay, so I'm freaking out about this right now. Apparently I'm believing something about the situation that's not true. So what might it be? And the second we do that, we immediately put a piece of plexiglass in between us and the situation, and we're able to look at it from a slightly more objective perspective, and it takes a little bit of the sting out of it. Because everything that happens, good and bad, is happening for our evolution as a human this time around at Earth Camp. This is what we signed up for. And everything that happens, from the good to the bad to the neutral, is all moving us forward. So the best thing you can do is to look at, okay, I'm believing this about the situation. I'm believing, because it hasn't happened yet, is never going to happen. Is that true? Do I know for a fact that that is true? And it might feel that way, but the short answer, the Cliff Notes version is no, because the only thing you know is that you're going to die at some point. That's the only thing you really know. You can assume, you can, guess based on past experiences, but you don't know that it's not going to happen for you. And so it's so important to realize that the things that are stressing us out are just thoughts. It's not actually what is happening. And it's kind of like, in The Wizard of Oz, the great and powerful Oz seemed really freaking scary. Mm-hmm. And then Toto pulls back the curtain and it's this old guy who's like not actually that scary. And that's what our thoughts are, honestly. We think it's so much scarier than it is, but when we can pull back the curtain and go, this is just a thought. I am making it mean this, but I don't know that that's true. So I don't need to send energy to that thing. Because it ends up being like when you leave Google Maps open on your phone, even though you're not looking at Google Maps, you didn't close it out, so now your battery's dead. These beliefs, these thoughts are apps that are open on our phones. And if we can close them out, then our battery lasts longer and we're able to do things that we want to do.
Yeah, it's a loop. Yeah, 99% of our thoughts we had yesterday, we'll have the same ones again tomorrow. There's like, what, 70,000 thoughts that we have a day.
Wow.
Yeah, a whole bunch of them are not true.
Yep.
Especially
but they feel true.
And they feel. Yeah.
That's the thing is our brain assumes that they are because they're causing such a visceral reaction, and so the best thing you can do is identify, is this thing actually true? Do I know for a fact? Because unless you have a DeLorean a la Back to the Future, unless you've been Back to the Future and you already know and you're like, yeah, no, it didn't work, let's discuss it. But until that happens, you don't know. And so we don't want to send energy toward what we don't want. We want to send it toward what we do want. And that's tough. It is like, when I was a kid, I had an above ground pool and we would all run in the same direction and make like a whirlpool thing. And then we would try to turn around and go against it and we get knocked on our ass because the momentum is too strong. And when you're in this loop of it should have happened by now, you cannot move forward energetically. You cannot. So the goal is to pick a neutral thought, even if you can't go to the super positive, because sometimes that's too much of an energetic leap to go from it's never going to happen to I'm pregnant, we can't handle that sometimes. So at least to get neutral and go, right now, why am I okay? Right now, what is going right? And just accepting what is happening. It doesn't mean that you lay over and die and be like, well, this is my life now. And that's it. It just means accepting, okay, here's where I am right now. What can I do to move forward? That is way easier than it shouldn't be happening. It shouldn't be happening. It shouldn't be happening. We can't get out of that loop. So the goal is to get neutral first so that we can then take a step forward. And that begins by examining these thoughts that feel true, but they are just thoughts. And the more you call it out, it's like when you watch a horror movie, and once you've seen it, it's like, okay, yes, they're running upstairs. This is going to happen now. It's not scary anymore because you know what's going to happen, Mm-hmm. So the same thing happens with these thoughts. When we're like, okay, this is not actually real. It's trying to be. It's because the brain really means well. Anytime you do something that your brain doesn't know you're going to survive, it throws out the bazookas and AK-47s of, oh my God, and this could happen to you and that could, what if, and, because it knows that you're safe where you are right now doing what you're doing. And so it wants to keep you that way. So these thoughts that come up are to sort of keep you where you are. And it's good intention. Your brain's wanting to keep you alive. It doesn't realize that this thing you want to do would actually benefit your life and increase your quality of life and all of that. It doesn't know that because you haven't done it. So the more we can examine these thoughts and go, okay, I'm freaking out about this. Is this thing true? Do I know for a fact that it's true? No? Okay. Now let me pick a different thought that does feel good. And it can at least get you to pivot out of that loop. Even if it's just for a minute one day, great. Maybe it's 5 minutes tomorrow. Maybe it's a half an hour the next day. You have to be okay with incrementally moving toward this more positive place because you can't do it in one leap,
Yeah. And then anchoring that neutral thought or more positive thought to a feeling in your body. Like when you, so how do you go about doing that?
Usually, because most of us are driving our corpses around from our brains and not really in our bodies very often, the easiest thing that I find to do is to have put your hand on your heart or on your belly because when something's touching your body, you're automatically more aware of your body. So when you're saying your thoughts that do feel good or your positive intentions, having a hand grounded on your body, or if some of you are open to using stones, a lot of my clients use that. I use them when I meditate, having the stones on your body. For example, carnelian is known as like the fertility stone for regulating cycles. It's male and female fertility stone. So that would go on your lower abdomen. So sometimes having the stones on your body, it's something touching your body that makes you more dropped in and able to feel, again, with having the music when you're doing it, or sage, scented candle, etc. Something else that triggers another sense that is calming for you. But, like if you're in the subway or at work, obviously you're not going to break out your stones and your sage. So it may just be putting your hand on your heart and breathing and just saying that thing 3 times.
Yeah, like that with the crystals.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do we release these traumas or beliefs? Obviously that's going to take a while, but how?
It does. Yeah. I mean, it didn't take you 5 minutes to get where you are. It's going to take more than that to shift it. But there are a couple of things that are really helpful. One is, again, the work of Byron Katie. Part of the belief mindset work that I do with my clients is based on that. It's, you can get her worksheet from, I think it's like thework.com or thework.org. You can get mine from Fusion Fertility. It's in the Conceivable Toolkit, but it's a worksheet, and it basically breaks down the scary thought, the belief, and it turns it around so that I'm oversimplifying it right now. You kind of have to go through it, but it basically dissects the fear and turns it around so that you're not sending energy to that fear anymore. And it gives examples of why your belief actually isn't true. And then you focus on that aspect of things. Another thing you can do is if you've had, if it's a trauma versus a fear or belief, there are oils. I use Young Living. I know a lot of people use doTERRA. Those are like the top 2.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure. Everybody's like Bloods and Crips about Young Living and doTERRA. It doesn't matter really.
Yeah, no.
They're both good. I use Young Living. So the blends are called Release and Sara, Sara. Release is that you put sort of over your liver and on the palms of your hands. And that's for kind of releasing anger from past experiences. That might be from breakups, past fights, losing a job that you feel like you shouldn't have, like any sort of stored anger or fear. It can be from trauma or abuse also, but I think Sara is a better oil for that. That's more from like sexual trauma. So if there's like, like any sort of rape involved, anything really super molestation, any sort of like really traumatic past thing, I would use that because those are the sorts of experiences that I'm talking about that can be inhibiting what's happening now. These things that we deal with things to the best of our ability at the time, and then we have to move on because life doesn't stop. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we've processed everything that happened. And so using these oils and sort of setting the intention to release those things that are no longer serving you, and this is not where I'm headed in my life, and I'm letting these things go. And you can, visualize it going down and out through your body. The other thing would be to write. Writing is very cathartic, and it is, your brain processes things differently when you're writing versus when you're just thinking it, because there's so much sloshing around in your brain at any one given time that it's easier when you're writing it. So if this is to a person, like if this is like, I have a lot of clients who are in their 40s who spent most of their 30s with a guy who wasn't ready to commit, and they're pissed that they wasted all this time on this guy. And so they will write a letter to him and be like, F you, and blah, 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 and you did this to me, and blah, blah, blah. Get it all out there, and then burn it if you have outdoor space, or if not, put it in the sink so you don't burn the house down. But I usually have people do that on like a full moon, which is about releasing stuff that's not serving you anymore. But you can literally do it at any time. But burning is really like a cathartic thing. So you don't have to send it to the person. You can just burn it. If it's not directed at a person and you're just like writing down all of your fears, like what is it that you're ready to release that is is slowing you down and you're not sure how to release it, but you're ready to release it. Write all that stuff down and then burn it. Those are good ways to start the energy moving.
Yeah, I've had people do that as well with the burning of writing it out. It's from I was reading the Clarity Cleanse, and I can't remember the guy's name, the author's name, and talks about is this sort of this whole healing cycle and so included in there is getting it out, as you say, and then burning it, and which is really it just actually is putting a cap on it and
Yes.
moving on. Now, as far as the oils, are you diffusing or are you putting them on pulse points, or what are you doing? Recommending?
You can certainly diffuse them. The more exposure, the better. But I usually, for those, recommend to put the release goes over your liver, so like your upper abdomen and the palms of your hands. And then Sarah, I usually have like a couple of drops on that area, the reproductive area, because that's generally what that's for, and the bottoms of your feet or the base of your spine, because the spine is like your backbone, your strength, so it's like, being able to release this stuff to regain your strength back. I kind of feel like when you're putting the oils physically on you, that it can be a lot more intuitive. It doesn't have to be, this is where it goes. If you're like, I really want to put it on my heart, go for it. It's not wrong, So just a drop or two in each area. My skin is not sensitive at all, so I don't have to use a carrier oil, but you may want to do that at first just to make sure that you're not going to have a reaction to it. Just put like a little bit of coconut oil or olive oil or whatever. But I tend to find that, the more potent you can have it, the better. So like, don't put a, drop in a quarter size thing of oil, if you can help it. But these oils aren't, it's not like, cypress or juniper where they're really like herbaceous and they're going to sting. You should be fine. But as a precaution, that's what we usually say about oils. But you can certainly diffuse it, get an oil diffuser. Sometimes people will put a few drops in their bath. And then just visualize all of that stuff going down the drain of the bath. So that can be, it's really honestly more like, yes, the oils have properties. Yes, the stones that I have people use, they do have properties. They are legit. And it's more potent if you're having an intention behind it. Like, here's why I'm doing it. Here's my intention for using this thing. This is something that is for me, not to get the baby, but this is for me to release this, or for me to plug into something. This is giving me time, like that kind of a thing. Intention is as, if not more important as the modality that you're using,
Absolutely. Yeah. And on the blog, fabfertile.com, there's a blog talking about essential oils and then the strong emotions that you might be experiencing. So that's a good one.
Oh, cool. Well. Okay.
Yeah. Awesome. So, and Reiki. So you've been a Reiki master for 10 years.
Uh-huh.
How do you incorporate that as part of your, as part of helping people, supporting people?
Well, it started out as being the method. Now it's like the means by which I get the information, but at the very core, Reiki, I kind of call it acupuncture without the needles. It's essentially the same thing. Acupuncture, the needles are going in to unblock the stuck chi or the stuck energy, whether that's, some physical issue or grief or fear. That's what the acupuncture is essentially doing. So with Reiki, it's an energy technique. It can be done in person, which is how I started doing it, or distance Reiki, which is what I do now, because I have people all over the world. I wish I could go to everybody individually, but that doesn't happen. But energy is energy, so it doesn't need to be physically in person. But so at the very base, the goal with Reiki is to get the body to a relaxed enough state so it can start to heal itself. Because we have a lot more healing power, both intuitively and physically, than we give ourselves or our body credit for. And the body is by design a self-healing organism, so at the very least with Reiki, you feel relaxed and you feel like your body is getting to this point where it's relaxed enough to start to heal itself. So when I'm doing the actual Reiki work, I'm going in to clear out the stuck energy and then energize that area. It just so happens that while I'm doing that, I get these intuitive hits about what is subconsciously, why do they actually have a knee problem? Why do they actually have endometriosis? That kind of a thing. And then after that part takes about an hour. And then after that, we kind of go through what came up at each area. I work like down the chakras and then the feet. So we go over what came up at each area, where that resonates for them, and then how they're going to move forward from there. So what's the homework? So the Reiki has become the means by which I get the information, but also clearing and energizing them as I'm doing that. But ultimately, I think what ends up shifting them and able to get pregnant is discovering what are these subconscious blocks that are happening, and then dealing with them. It's just that Reiki is how I get that information.
So I've done in-person Reiki. How does distance Reiki work? What do you do?
I usually, depending where the person is, it's either Skype or phone, and they're laying down, either semi-reclined or all the way down. The phone is on speaker or headset, so that we're walking through together. It's not like I just say I'm doing it for an hour and a half and you just like pretend to feel it. It's actually on the phone. And I'm doing the same thing. I'm focusing on, so like I said, I go down the chakras, from the crown down to the root and then the feet. So I'm focusing on, I'm just visualizing that person. I'm visualizing that area of the person, and they are also bringing their awareness to that area. So, and then I'm on each area for about 3 to 5 minutes, clearing and energizing, and then seeing whatever is wanting to come up at that area, to help them. And you'll still feel like, everybody, even the most, skeptical people will still feel either tingling or twitching or warmth. Some people see colors. So just like what would happen in an in-person session, you will still feel things happening when your awareness is at that area. So it's just as, like I said, energy is energy. It doesn't need to be in person, but it's essentially the same sort of format. You just are visualizing these areas instead of physically having your hands over them,
And so you're using that to sort of be the guide for the information, and then taking it a step further with some of the things that we've been talking about.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so, so what about women that are, working stressful jobs and the kind of those long hours? What are some things that you recommend? I saw some things in your book there that you have.
Yeah, this is one of the most common issues. I would say at least 80% of my clients who are dealing with unexplained infertility, it's because of the job situation. Mm-hmm. Either they're not in their purpose, or maybe they are, but they are just completely overloaded and not taking care of themselves. And so many women I see, like, they're like, oh, I'll take care of that once I'm pregnant. And it's like, that's part of the issue. Like, I'm not saying quit your job and, just go sit in a hammock until you're pregnant, but there are things that you can do to start shifting, even incrementally shifting your energy over. Because the thing is, going back to the brain issue, your fight or flight response, besides keeping you alive, your brain wants to make sure that you are taking care of yourself. And so many of us are not, really. I mean, between the job and the hours and dealing with family and spouse and everything that goes on in our day-to-day, most of us are not taking time for ourselves, because all of that time goes to researching supplements and food and making sure I'm eating the right thing and doctor's appointments and all of this stuff, and being in that sort of hunting energy. And we're doing these things to get the baby or to get money to survive. And we're not doing it for something that lights us up or that recharges us. And so when you have so much going on, your brain is going to go, you know what? You have a lot going on right now, and you're trying to add something else to your plate. I don't think so. Because this baby, of course, is going to need even more of your attention, that your brain is going, yeah, you don't have any more to give anybody else. So we have to find these little ways. It doesn't have to be anything massive by any means, but little ways to kind of show your brain that you are taking care of yourself. So you're building in this time for your brain to think that you have time. And that can be something as simple as when you're on your lunch break, you're just taking 10 deep breaths that are just for you, or you go outside and have lunch. If you don't take a lunch break, take a lunch break. Like, you need that, that's something that you're allowed to eat. So little things like that, where, if there's like a little park or a courtyard even where you work and you can go outside, great. If not, do a little mini meditation, just that thing that we talked about before, where you put your hand on your belly and you just ask, what is it that you need me to know? Write it down. 10 deep breaths. When you get home, doing some sort of discharge exercise, like you just take a quick shower. Even if you don't normally take a shower at night, just take like a quick 2-minute one, and you just visualize whatever your yuck of the day is, whether that's fear of this whole pregnancy thing, or your boss, or whatever. Give it a color and a texture, this yuck. Like, for example, like say it's like black ink, let's say, and you visualize that, and you visualize it going down your body and out through the bottom of your feet down the drain. So you're setting this intention that, yes, I'm aware that there's this yuck. It feels overwhelming, and I'm deciding to send it down the drain. It brings back another sense of power and clearing. Like, I don't have to be at the mercy of an overwhelming thought. I can take it, acknowledge it, and then I can decide to have it go down the drain, because restoring that sense of capability is really important. We have to feel capable enough to be able to make a human. And so it can start with things like that, where whatever is tossed at me, I can acknowledge it, and I can deal with it. I can decide not to carry this energy, because a lot of times what happens when we have stressful jobs, especially if we're responsible for teams of people, or like I have a lot of clients who are teachers, so they're responsible for a lot of students, and they have a lot of after school responsibilities and a lot of administrative responsibilities, and they don't take time for themselves, and that accumulates day after day after day. And so when you do something like this, where it's daily, just discharging that stuff, letting that stuff go, it then makes it easier to not to keep that stress level down, actually, because it's not accumulating on a daily basis. And then the other thing I would say to do is to write a list of what your responsibilities are at work, and then on another piece of paper, write a list of what your responsibilities actually are, because I promise you they're different. You think you need to do more than you are doing, and you're taking more responsibility than you actually need to. So there are, at least pick one thing. I would love 1 to 3 things that you can either delegate to somebody else, cut down, or eliminate. There may just be a way of doing something that doesn't take as much time, or that you don't actually need to do, that you're sort of, all of my clients have really good work ethics. They're really, like on it, wanting to achieve and whatever. And this is a point when you're trying to get pregnant where we need to like pull that back a little bit, and really be focusing on you and not getting the work or getting the baby, and so at least pick one thing. I would love 3, but at least one thing that you can shift during your day at work. And even if you have to stay late at night, if you have to stay late 5 nights a week, decide that you're going to knock it down to 4 this month, and have a discussion with, your HR or your boss, and say, listen, there's a health thing that I'm going through right now. You don't have to tell them what it is if you don't want to. But this is what I need to do. And honestly, if they're not having it, you may need to think about shifting your job, and that's okay. It just might be that's what's, it's time for that to happen. But for the most part, they're going to be understanding of that and realize how much you're giving them, and if they don't accept it, you can't keep going at that rate anyway. So it may be time to start pointing energy toward what you want to do, which I know is another can of worms to get into. But for now, at least one thing. So whether that's having lunch outside, mini meditation, taking 10 deep breaths, not staying late after work one day, there's something that you can shift there. And even taking that little step and entertaining that there's something that could be done differently, that can be enough to start to turn the tide a little bit.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I love that one about the shower, visualizing the yuck coming off and just taking a couple
Oh
minutes
yeah.
to, yeah, physically do that.
Yeah,
Um,
because the idea of I'm going to release what's overwhelming me, that seems like, well, how the fuck do I do that?
exactly.
Like,
Exactly.
so sometimes having, even if you're not a visual person, it's whatever color comes to you, or whatever thought, whatever texture comes to you, that is correct. It's red and scaly today. Okay, then that's what's happening.
Mhm.
And visualizing that going down, it makes it easier to wrap your head around releasing things.
Mhm. And what about so friends and family? They keep asking, when are you gonna have a baby?
Oh yeah.
That's one I deal with clients all the time. Same thing.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
What's your take?
Um, it is kind of a can of worms. It is multi-layered, because it's always with good intention,
That's right.
but we're weirdly trained to ask that question.
Hmm.
It's kind of bizarre to me. But as soon as somebody's married, we immediately go, so when are you having kids? And it's not, there's not any bad intention behind it. It's not like, hurry up already, except maybe from grandparents who just want the grandchild and don't really know any better. But um, the important thing to remember is that there's two major components. One is that they don't know what you're going through, and so because they don't, they're just going to keep going at it, and you then become like, I don't even want to go to Thanksgiving dinner because I don't want to hear about this. And you start to feel like you want to just not be around people. You're dreading, who's going to ask at work, um, and all of that kind of stuff. And so we just keep our mouths shut and we just go, yeah, yeah, like, well, we're working on it, and it just keeps happening. And so the best thing I think you can do, honestly, is address it once, and that will save you at least tens of times, if not more, of you having to address it, to say, listen, I totally get that you're excited for me and you can't wait to be an aunt slash grandmother slash whatever, whatever your function is in my life. I totally get that you can't wait for that. Just know that we're working on building our family, or we are taking the steps that feel good for us. And when there's something to report, you will be one of the first to know.
Yep.
You have to be kind. You don't have to be. You can do whatever you want. But it would be helpful for you to be kind when you say it, because they aren't purposely being assholes about it. They care. They also just don't know what you're going through. And so by no means should you have to just sit there and take it at family gathering after family gathering, or work meeting after work meeting. You shouldn't have to take it by any means. But I think if we come across as biting back, they're going to then take offense and things are going to get weird. So it's like we can kind of save everybody some hassle by addressing it in a kind, I get what you're saying, and here's what we're doing. When there's something to know, you'll know. Done. End of story. And there may be somebody who's obnoxious and doesn't get it, but for the most part, that's what I've seen work with people. You're very clear. Absolutely. Don't be wishy-washy, but be clear, but be kind. And that usually buttons it up for people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it. Okay, so as far as any kind of a book or an app or a website, something that you like.
Well, like I said, I think the Byron Katie work, the mindset work, is so important. So her first book is called Loving What Is. So I would recommend that. Because, there are some really, and if you watch some of her videos, a lot of people find her weird, and that's fine. But I mean, she is a bit of an alien in how calm she is about dealing with extreme circumstances. But they do kind of go into some serious stuff where any person would be like, yeah, hell yeah, I'd be mad at that. Hell yeah, it's their fault. And she can really dismantle it, and these thoughts that people have carried for 30 years can be dismantled in a matter of minutes. And that's really exciting. And I think it's necessary, because even if you are open to law of attraction and affirmations and being positive, you can't run to the positive if you're running away from the negative. Because from a law of attraction perspective, if I'm running to the positive, but I've got one eye behind me going, oh my God, what if it gets me? What if it gets me? I'm focusing on what if it gets me, not the positive, really. So we want to be able to stop and look at what am I afraid of and dismantle it so that I can then walk to the positive and not worry about the negative coming to get me, because you can sweep this stuff under the rug and vacuum the rug, but you still have a lump under the rug, so just positivity itself isn't going to cut it. You have to deal with this shadow side of yourself, this fear part. And so that to me is a necessary component. Another book that I love, it's part of how I got started with this whole emotional cause to the physical issue of it all, is You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay.
Mm-hmm.
In the back, there's a glossary of all the, physical conditions and what their emotional or mental cause is. Yeah. And they also have an app, or they used to anyway, I think it's called Heal Body. But I have it with me all the time. Whenever somebody's like, oh, I have, gastritis. I'm like, oh, what is that about? Oh, yep. They're dealing with that. Right. Mm-hmm. So that I love. And then also any Esther Hicks, Abraham Hicks, Law of Attraction books, if you're not familiar with how it works, other than The Secret, which I don't think really fully covers it enough, because the secret is just like, focus on getting $1 million and it'll show up in your mailbox. And that's not how it works. So that might be a good option too, to kind of dig into this energy. That's kind of what helped me from working on my money beliefs and like, I only make enough to survive and I don't have enough money and, all of this stuff, and shifting to, I make enough to enjoy my life, not just survive it. Or with my health condition, I can focus on this and not focus on the negative, focus on the positive. So the Abraham Hicks stuff is really about getting in alignment with what you want versus what you don't want. But it's not enough. You need the Byron Katie part of it, the working on the mindset part, for it to be a whole package. You can't.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, you can't just work on one and not have the other. It's the yin and yang, light and dark balance. You need both,
Yeah, because a lot of people have I just want to quit the job. And then it's like, how do you shift what the job is doing for you right now? It's paying the bills, and I'm, looking
right.
At it, instead of saying, oh my goodness, I can't stand it. I just want to, be pregnant so I can leave.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. So focusing on like how the job is serving you right now, but you can still point energy toward what you would love to do. I mean, at least 90% of my clients end up moving jobs, but it's not because they run away and quit the job. It's because they're like, oh, I'm not in my purpose. Here's what I'd actually like to be doing. Like, one of my clients was a teacher who was like way overworked, but she had also this side bath and body business, or like organic bath and body products. And she loved it, but she's like, those people don't make money. So we worked on beliefs around that. And she's now in Whole Foods and Urban Outfitters, and she's not teaching anymore,
mm-hmm.
And so it's like another example of like how your beliefs can be limiting you, like she didn't think that was even possible. And now she's doing what she loves doing. So you may want to eventually be moving on from your job, but you don't want to quit the job just to get the baby, because that's still attachment. It's still fear, so how can we make the situation that is happening as palatable as possible, and then point our energy toward what we would love to do?
Mm-hmm. And you've got lots of success stories, but is there one that kind of comes to mind you'd like to share?
Sure. One of the most recent ones that just gave birth, she's from Cyprus, the island of Cyprus, and she's 47.
Oh, wow.
Thank you very much. She still was getting a regular cycle, which is awesome. Mm-hmm. But she got married when she was 40. And so there's this implanted belief, societal brain culty belief that your eggs are crap after 30 and you don't have a chance and you have to do IVF. And so she went through 5 rounds of IVF, had 5 miscarriages. And because her brain was so like afraid it wasn't going to work, and what if I can't do it? And that was the energy that kept dominating her journey. So she kept losing. And so we worked on a lot of a lot of her fear, got her connected to the baby, and went through a lot of beliefs, which everybody has a lot of them. This was not an exception, but we had to do a lot of work around age beliefs and what that means in terms of capability and stuff. And so she just gave birth to her daughter. She's beautiful. She's fine. She's healthy. There's nothing genetically, medically wrong with her at all. She's fine. And she's 47. So to everybody who's listening out there, if you're most of my clients are in their 40s. So there is, you have to address the mindset, but there absolutely is a way around this for sure. And she's a perfect example of that at 47.
I love it. And so your free gift you have here is the Conceivable Toolkit. So 10 exercises to boost your fertility. Can you share with the listeners what they'll get when they opt into that?
Sure. Yeah. So you just go to fusionfertility.com, and it's right at the top. You just enter your name and email, and you'll get the kit mailed to you. And so the belief sheet will be in there as well to start working through some of the mindset work. But there's some intuitive exercises, some of which we talked about today, but other ones, but also specific exercises that get your mind over to, because it's our default setting to go, here's the problem. There's a spot on the rug. There's a spot on the rug. And you have a lovely apartment, but there's a spot on the rug. We can't help but focus on the problem. And we need to start focusing on the solution. And that is not something that's second nature. So a lot of these exercises are to get, you've got this Grand Canyon worn down of like, oh my God, this is wrong and this is wrong. And we have to start carving another little Grand Canyon of what is going right. And why is it likely this will work? And it'll be awesome when this happens. And so these are writing exercises that kind of help shift your mindset gradually over to that positive place, and things that you want to do daily. Because we have, depending how long you've been on your journey for, but if you've been on this road for 5 years, it's going to be hard to just go, I'll just think of something positive, because your brain's like, no. Screw you. No, it hasn't worked in 5 years. So that's going to take some time to shift that. And so these are things that when we're pointing energy daily toward what we want versus what we don't want, your brain eventually starts to go, all right, I'll consider this, so those exercises will definitely help with that.
Awesome. So definitely check that out at Fusion Fertility. So FUSION fertility.com. And thanks so much for coming on the podcast today, Andrea. It was super, super informative. A lot of practical tips for people to really dig in. And also, making the spiritual or the woo kind of accessible. And I really love your down-to-earth approach as well.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's really important. A lot of people get either turned off by the energy thing, or they're so into the energy thing that they're not grounded in anything. And like you said, that term woo woo. I'm like single woo. I'm like one woo and then one.
And a woo with a swear word.
Yeah, exactly. I'm woo and swear words. But I think, I am a skeptical person, and I only things that I've seen work will I subscribe to. I think blind faith in anything is not a good idea, whether that's in food, supplements, or whatever. And so I think it is important to have that whole mind body thing. Like, yes, we're grounded in this, but there is also another factor to consider. So
absolutely. Totally agree. Awesome. Well, thanks so much again.
Thank you. Take care.
Hey there, Sarah Clark here. So are you struggling to have your baby? First of all, please know that my heart goes out to you. I support couples worldwide who are struggling with infertility to conceive and have healthy babies. Women like Rita, who gave birth to her beautiful daughter after following my fertility coaching system. Or Danielle, who after 2 failed IUIs was able to get pregnant after a Supercharge Your Fertility discovery call with me. So here's how you get my help for free. So I offer a free Supercharge Your Fertility discovery call. And on that call, I'll create a plan with you that is going to help you fast track your success. So this call is not for everyone. And I'm really picky about who I get to speak with. And I have a strict but totally reasonable criteria that needs to be met in order for us to move forward. So here's who I can help. So first of all, you need to be able to explore your infertility diagnosis in a new light. So this offers for people who are open-minded, they're coachable, and if you can do that and want to double or triple your chances at the fertility clinic or get pregnant, awesome. So let's get on the phone and chat. Also, you must be an action taker. So someone who's committed to seeing results, you're able to follow directions. Don't worry, I'm not going to ask you to do anything bizarre. But if you're one of those people who like to consume a ton of information, but don't like to spend time implementing and seeing results, then the call's not really for you. So I only want to spend time with people who are genuinely committed to their own success. So just click on the link in the show notes and apply, or go to fabfertile.com and click on the free consult. So it's a really short application that just tells you about your health, how long you've been trying to conceive, and how soon you'd like to be pregnant. So seriously, this is going to be the best time you've ever spent on your fertility. Looking forward to chatting. Talk soon. Thank you for listening to Get Pregnant Naturally. Seriously, it means the world to me that you're here. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you can be notified of upcoming episodes. I'm excited to offer you a special gift. If you're a U.S. resident, text FERTILE to 345-345. You'll be prompted to enter your email address and you'll receive our fertility yoga download. In this 20-minute intro video, we focus on a calming and peaceful practice to connect back to your heart. These simple fertility yoga poses can help quiet negative thoughts and make you feel more in control. Download it now and get started today. So for U.S. residents, text FERTILE, FERTILE, to 345-345. For non-U.S. residents, go to www.yogafreebie.com to access your special gift. That's www.yogafreebie.com to access the free fertility yoga download. And I love this quote by Dr. Mark Hyman, Medical Director of the Cleveland Clinic Center for Functional Medicine and Chairman of the Institute for Functional Medicine. Functional medicine is medicine by cause, not by symptom. Functional medicine practitioners don't in fact treat disease. We treat your body's ecosystem. We get rid of the bad stuff, put in the good stuff, and because your body is an intelligent system, it does the rest. Thanks for listening. Until next time.